Hey, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I'm your host, Dino Decespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engle. What is up, man?
Buddy, I'm feeling fantastic. We were treated to another friendly game of football between USA and Portugal, and I thought it was quite entertaining. And I think people are starting to take some things from these two games versus our European pals.
Yep. I mean, I took some things, got a whole long list of things that I took that I want to talk to you about. So I was glad that the USA got a little redemption Sunday before Selection Sunday or Decision Sunday, whatever the actual official name of it is. But redemption was had. Very excited about that. Mr. Grant Engle, where should we get started?
Only one place to start, my good man. USA 3, Portugal 1. USA versus Portugal Part 2. More USA versus Portugal. I don't know what you name. I don't know what you named the sequel to this movie.
Less friendly.
Yeah, significantly less friendly. I think the overarching conversation point here is that midfield sure looked different, huh?
Big difference in that midfield. Was happy to see it. I think my first takeaway from first of all, I'm super parched. You know, we're running late on Sunday. I mean, a lot of sports today, a lot of happenings in the household, a lot of dad stuff. I'm just gonna have to just preempt it and get this thing correct.
Let's make it happen.
Cheers to you. Cheers to the football.
Cheers to you. Cheers to the football. Cheers to everybody hanging out who hopefully enjoyed that football.
Let's go.
What a great day.
A wonderful day. You brought up the midfield. I want to talk about one player in particular that I was very excited about. And then I want to talk a little bit about, I want to play a little game. I want to play a little, well, I've got my Sharpie, so that's a little spoiler alert. I want to play the Sharpie game, right? So we're less than 24 months from the 2027 World Cup. We don't have to actually Sharpie any of these names in here. We don't have to make any selections, but I think we could have a little fun and say, okay, watching these couple of matches versus Portugal, were there any players that you would say, based on these performances, based on what we know to date, this player, I think, if I had to make this decision today, 20-ish months early, I would Sharpie this player in. Now I set the rule at 4, so I've got 4. I wanted you to get 4. I think you've got your 4, and I want to talk about this game through that lens. So hopefully we can maybe we highlight the same 4 players, maybe we highlight 8 players. Who knows? That'd be a lot of fun. Either way, I want to play that game with you.
Okay, fair enough. I stuck to the premise. I only selected 4. Can I ask though, do you have the list handy of who you considered?
Yes, I do. I had a list. I had a long list of 10.
Okay, there we go. I had 12.
Let's go. See, you're always good for a little, at least 20% extra, prep and research than me. That's why you fill that very important seat.
I appreciate that. I'm also good for just like skewing somewhat away from the premise sometimes, like a total dope. And so that's why I end up with extra sometimes. So I appreciate you being patient with me there.
No, let's go. I want to talk about one player in the midfield particularly. This player did make my 4. I'm very curious if they made your 4 because it was the first thing. Yeah, they didn't make my 4, but I want to mention them briefly. This was on my longer list. Jayden Shaw, who I thought, you talked about that midfield, found a really nice spot, right? And a couple players that could really unlock, that not quite 9.5 Jayden Shaw, but 9 3/4 Jayden Shaw, or a little deeper, but still a threat. And then turns out was able to be a threat all over the park, and with all the movement and all of the emphasis on trying to extend these possessions, trying to pass, move the ball, kind of like make Portugal work a little bit more. I thought Jayden Shaw was probably one of the biggest recipients of that change in strategy.
Couldn't agree more. When she is on the field with players who know how to take advantage of her speed and her twitchiness and frankly her really good instincts to like be speedy and twitchy to get into dangerous areas, and you have players who can kind of like work with her and read that she's going to make those smart moves, she's dangerous, dude. I just totally agree. Like that. Part of my notes was Shaw in this mix of players is a different Shaw than what we've been seeing for the past few months.
Mm. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, you're allowing Shaw to run, to move, to occupy space, to distribute and shoot if she gets a look. Like it's like the perfect mix. And to your point, players that can get her the ball. And I think the passing in this one was a pretty stark difference from the first matchup. The first matchup it was like, all right, we retained possession. Let's kick a lowish probability pass up ahead. In this one, there was a lot of lateral passes, some back passes, some resets, recycle this way, cycle it back the other way, and just a lot more patience. And then I think even on the first goal, Lily puts a ball in, and I think Moultrie puts a ball in before it finds its way back to her. And these are like kind of aerial dink type, kind of like Sweden type balls, which just provide a different angle and a different like a different thing to think about. If you're the defender, it's not just balls whizzing forward, and then if it's like, all right, well, if you stop that one forward whizzing ball, the chance is over. Like the U.S. really made Portugal defend a lot of like basically almost like in 4 dimensions.
100%. And they needed the combination of players who are confident enough to even try to play into that like 4th dimension, if you will, like over the top, or just like little chips, or like long aerial passes across the width of the field at times. Like there's just like a level of creativity that was in the midfield today, and that Shaw benefits from, and that I want to, you touched on it too, but I want to be clear about it, is that Shaw, she gets into those dangerous areas, and of course she's a threat to score. Super willing passer too, though. She will give up a good shot for a better shot.
Yeah, no, super player, and like I think it's going to be, what we've been waiting for, kind of like the redefinition of Jaden Shaw as a U.S. Women's National Team player. Looks like that's starting to take some effect, which is super exciting. Jaden Shaw didn't make my Final Four though. Did make my list of 10. Player that I'm like, okay, now we're back, with the arrow pointing way back up for Jaden Shaw. But I want to kick it to you. Top 4, Sharpie. I don't know. Do you want to go 1 to 4? Should we go 4 to 1 and build up some drama? How do you want to do this?
I think we should probably do 1 to 4, because if you think about, you're filling out a team sheet or you're filling out a roster, you do start with your kind of like, okay, these are my Sharpie players. Like I'm putting them in there. The auto start in the fantasy sports, comparison, whatever you want to do it. So if you're comfortable with that, I think that's where I'd like to go.
All right, let's go. You're up.
Lily Johannes, number 1 with a bullet for me. I just, the passing, the intelligence, so Emma Hayes in the post-match press conference, like when talking about Lily Johannes, did say she needs to get better as a defender, which I just kind of smirked and was like, love that coach talk. Love it, because she does, and that's totally fair. Like there are plenty of areas, that this teenager needs to get better in, but she's already such a smart defender, man. She has an instinct and frankly an intelligence where there are so many plays where you can just see her compute it, where she's like, ooh, 1 step to my right, 1 step to my left, 1 step back and to the right, and I'll cut off this other passing lane. And like you could see the computer working in her brain. There was a moment early in the first, I think it might have been middle of the first half, where there's a Portuguese attacker going in, and Johannes just takes a step over, and the attacker is just like, I think it might have been Silva, he's just like, whoop, got to turn out of here. And she turns and passes it back, and it ends up in a turnover. And it's just because Johannes said, oh, I'm going to stand over here. And her, her great size and her physicality out there already at her young age. I mean, she's the total package, man. And I just say all these nice things about her defense. Her passing is out of this world.
Passing's out of this world for sure. Vision out of this world. Just the decisions that she makes are usually pretty on point. Even if like the ball looks audacious, like it's usually it's less risky when she like kind of like uncorks you. Just like, oh, that ended up being the right play. It just was 2 players away or 3 players away. And I kind of do agree. I agree with both of you. I agree with you in the sense that Lily's a really good defender and shows really good defensive chops a lot. But I also agree with Emma Hayes in that, I think the engagement level in this one defensively, not just Lily, but I think there was a lot of players when the break was on the other way, it was kind of like a little slow to react, a little, kind of like, I think somebody else will step in there, and I think for a player like Lily that's so smart, sometimes it's not just getting in the lane when you can win the ball back. Sometimes it's just getting in the lane to say, no, you're not going this way. You're gonna have to go the other way. Like, so it's almost like the game within the game, like knowing, all right, we're not going to take it back here, but I have to occupy this space. I have to cut off this lane and also have like this secondary lane halfway covered, right? Just to make sure that we're keeping this pressure on. I love the Johannes pick. Obviously Lily was in my top 4 too. I had her in the second slot though, because there's one player that, and you had asked me before if we were doing any caveats between players that did or did not appear in the 2023 World Cup. This player for me did appear in the 2023 World Cup, and that's Alyssa Thompson. I think what Alyssa Thompson's able to do, kind of like with her speed, and her runs, her pressure, her willingness to kind of like just go. And to your point, the distributors, now if you're thinking about Jaden Shaw as a distributor too, in addition to like Lily and Claire Hutton and Avery Patterson and all the players like to keep the ball moving. Alyssa Thompson as a recipient of that passing with her skills and her angles. I think that's a player that has to be on this, roster. It was the first name that I wrote down. I was like, didn't blow us away, with the scoring and the assist, but like, damn, that's a player that you really have to defend. And now her, playing at Chelsea, like, we're already seeing like really, really encouraging flashes there. So I had Alyssa in my number 1 spot.
I like it. I did not include Alyssa Thompson. This is what I said at the beginning. This is me being a dope and was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to, probably the spirit of this is to also pick players who weren't on the 23 roster. So, but it's a great pick. We're still playing the same game though. So I'm totally with you. Like when she cuts it in, when she is like, on the wing and she cuts the ball in to get it onto like her right foot. And frankly, she could shoot with her left foot too. But when you see defenders watching that happen, it's a 5-alarm fire of everybody just being like, somebody get in the way of the shot because they're terrified that she's going to drill it in the upper 90.
Yeah, and she's so fast and like she could change direction so quickly that she could change the angle too. Like she could cut across and she could also kind of like the equivalent of a fadeaway, like kind of bend the run back the other way. Find like a runner kind of back door coming right to left, if she's coming left to right. So there's so much that she's able to do. And I think with Sophie Wilson, Mal Swanson, Trinity, the whole triple espresso kind of up in the air, I think a player that is still years, from her prime athletically off the charts, and like game is pretty much, it's there. Like she, she's super productive and super scary. I think that's a player that I really liked in that spot. Who did you have number 2?
Number 2, I have Jordan Bugg.
Oh, let's go. Yes.
Too smart, man. Like there was a moment where Portugal was driving the ball down the field. I don't know if I could call it up in my notes exactly. We don't need to give everybody the exact play-by-play, but just great wheels from Bugg. And, it on top of her ability to usually be standing in the right place. She's able to recover so quickly. She has a good, a long stride, can play physical, but oftentimes doesn't need to play physical. You see like teams are scared to like really aggressively press her because she's so calm on the ball already that she will just turn, 1-2 passes, little short passes, create space with the attacking players who are pressing. And I just think, conceive a Naomi Girma, Jordan Bugg center back pairing. I think
Crazy.
that's something like you can't pass it up. I think where we would, as we watch the way Jordan Bug played this season and what we've seen her do in her limited time in the national team, I just think that pairing is too good to pass up.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, and ceiling off the charts too for Bug. And you could already see this is a player that's effective like right now. Very smart. The footwork is like a great call out too, because it's so clean, and
Always.
she's so efficient in being able to like turn, go up field or change direction. Not a lot of wasted steps. I love that you went with a center back. I also had a center back in my third spot. That's Tara McKeown. I think
Wow.
she's got. I think she's got a case for maybe the best center back in the NWSL this season. You know, I think like she's right up there, playing really, really great. I love her skills, and I think we've seen the U.S. In these tournaments really benefit from bringing along players that were versatile, could fill different spots and just do different things. And I think McKeown is just so rock solid. Emily Sonnet, obviously ITC Hall of Famer. Know what the resume is. You can see the IQ every time Sonnet steps on the pitch, but you also see some spots where, like you have to pair Sonnet with the right partner, like, because there are some limitations. There are going to be some matchup problems. I don't think going into this Portugal matchup, but either of these matchups, I don't think anybody was saying, oh, those Portugal attackers, we're going to have to, what's the plan there? And I think you look at it and they take home 3 goals over 2 matches, and these are both played on home soil. So defensively, a lot of stuff to sort out. Terry McKeown, I think, is like, I sharpie her in as like the third player that I'm like, I think has to be there in 27. We'd love to see Gurma back in full strength, and like the whole center back room, like all the way, fully stocked. But McKeown, I think, is a player that, you just kind of count on, feels like a very like sturdy, durable player with a bunch of different skills that I think would be super valuable.
Love it. Yeah. We've been admirers of Tara McKeown's game for a while. Obviously I feel like every broadcast, everybody talks about the attacker background that she brings to her style. Just a level of toughness that I think is great. McKeown actually didn't even make my 12, which is shameful behavior by me as a guy who's,
oh my goodness,
who's lauded her several times. I just
put it on the bulletin board, Tara.
There it is. I humbly apologize off the bat, but you can still call me a sucker. Like, that's totally fine. I get it. I do want to do a quick shout out. One other player who was not on my list, but I took a note on her. There was like a break in the action, something for a throw in, and you could see onto the bench. Emily Sams, I just want to like the perpetual shout out to like, yeah, she didn't get in either of these first 2 matches, but she's just the kind of player that Emma Hayes wants to have in camp, because she's a floor raiser. Like, she's a culture, like she's not like going to be the culture setter, right? Because you have so many of like veteran national team players on there, but she fits into the culture. She reinforces the culture, and just what she did last year, particularly, and she remains a good player. And so I just kind of saw her on the bench. I was just like, shout to her, man, because she's a good player to have in camp.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously last year's NWSL Defender of the Year. And if you're Emma Hayes and, you're trying to bring Jordan Bug along, that's a great player to be like, all right, Jordan, this is the player that it might come down to you two for that one, 4th or 5th center back spot 2 years from now. So like, let's start the process. So shout out to Emma Hayes for not messing around and assembling this team. Did you name your third?
I gave 1 and 2. I think you gave 1 and 3, because I think when I gave a center back,
I had Lily 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had Alyssa 1, Lily 2, Tara McKeown 3.
Got you. Thank you. I'm desperately trying to follow along in the game. So I am
doing
going. I'm hanging in there, man, trying to make it through. Sleepy Boys podcast. I am going with another defensive-minded midfielder, Claire Hutton. She plays with too much sauce. She is
Love
Emma
that.
Hayes. I think Emma Hayes said at least once, possibly twice during the post-match press conference, Johannes and Hutton play well beyond their years. And you could just see it. There were moments where Portugal was trying to put the press on, and those two just 1-2s, find the outlet, don't give up possession, don't just punt it upfield and give away possession, don't get squeezed. Like, we've seen Hutton contributing to a Shield winning team, not just contributing, being a major factor in a Shield winning team that's going to challenge for the NWSL championship. I couldn't be higher on those two as double sixes moving forward for this team.
Yeah, I thought Hutton was really good. And it's not just finding the outlets. A lot of it was like moving the offense along, even if it's not kicking the ball upfield. It's like, I think that's the big unlock is like the offense seems like it was moving in the first half of this one. And I think, talking about the match real quick, obviously Moultrie scores the first one, and it was kind of good and kind of bad because like 33 seconds score the first, the Rose scores in the first match. This one was like 46, 47 seconds roughly. And then you're kind of like, all right, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more, back and forth here in this one. And then I had the thought to myself, I'm like, I want to see what the U.S. does here. If like they're able to kind of like really sink into this game and keep hold of it, and then they give up the goal a few minutes later, Jessica Silva.
Yep.
But to their credit, they come right back and go back up 2-1. There weren't a ton of shots on target in this match. It was a little bit cagier. 23 shots total the first match, 14 in the second one. So it was a little bit closer to the vest. But again, shout out to the U.S. who I think controlled a lot more. We're very purposeful, rather than hopeful. Like everything felt like it was for a reason. Like, even if when we're recycling it. And that's just great to see. And that honestly starts from those two players. Like it starts from Lily and Claire Hutton, in that defensive midfield, making good decisions and not just like you said, just uncorking it. And then you have players like Alyssa Thompson or Avery Patterson on the other side that were patient and willing to make those backside runs, to provide an outlet for those two players that can hit that long pass. And then if you're Portugal, it's just two more things you have to worry about in real time. We made it so easy on Portugal that first time around, and they had to, Portugal defensively had to do so much more work tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing to point out, and that this younger team that we fielded today was also seemed much more willing to be like, oh, okay, we're going to play physical football today. Sure, let's go. Like we'll bang right up against you too. Not going to be a problem for us. And they very clearly, like, I have to imagine it didn't feel great leaving Chester, Pennsylvania the way they did. And I'm going to guess one of the old, and I mean, how athletes are. I'm sure there was some of it just kind of looking at each other like, okay, they thought they could push us around. Let's go ahead and show them like how this is going to go this time.
Yeah, no. And that was made clear very early. Nothing too friendly about this one for sure. You're in my fourth spot. You've done three, right?
Yes.
I keep asking. I keep losing track. I should have just written yours down and make my life a lot easier. In my fourth spot, I struggled with this one because the player that had player of the match today, maybe potentially Olivia Moultrie with 2 big goals, was like right on the doorstep of grabbing that fourth spot on my very dumb list. I think Moultrie, real quick before we kind of like. Before I get into my fourth player, I think Moultrie has an NWSL MVP ceiling in her. Wow. I think she can do everything. The player comp that I came up with, Detroit Pistons Isaiah Thomas, can pass, can score, big moments, doesn't matter, plays bigger in big moments, wants all of it, can kind of like engage defensively when needed. And just there's nothing too big for that player, can just kind of come out. And then also the reason I kind of like harken the name Isaiah Thomas, can play with anybody,
Yeah.
like has a game that like you could just put any player around them and Olivia Moultrie will find a way to be effective, to be able to distribute, to get to the right spots, to just through her movement without even touching the ball, open up opportunities for other players. I just think she's incredible, had an incredible game. I'm not going to mention how young she is because I was very tired of hearing how many teens and 20s and 19 and 21 and it's like, okay, we get it. A lot of young players. We're very excited. But Olivia Moultrie, forget about her age, an incredible player and just, shown off the screen in such a huge way in this match.
Maybe it's an easy comp. I was trying to come up with other international players that we could compare her to, and I was looking at her stats this year. I think she has 8 goals in the NWSL. She's around like a 70-ish pass completion percentage. I think she's like somewhere around like 800 passes on the year. And I was just like trying to think like, okay, who compares? Who's a midfielder with good speed, who you are fine with them, ripping shots pretty much anywhere around the area? How does like a Sarah Dobritz sound? Like, is that kind of close? Like, I think I see some of that in her game. I was thinking like, and obviously no disrespect to this other player, but is she a better Jessie Fleming, which is maybe like a little bit of an easy comparison to make because they both play for Portland Thorns. Like,
when you were bringing the Europe comparisons, the first, and this is not the same, doesn't play the same position, but I think this player could play. These two players can kind of play anywhere, right? And I think like the player that I thought about that Moultrie's game reminds me a little bit of, Sandy Baltimore. Can like dart in, can shoot, can pass, can see. That's, the vision, it goes so like overlooked so often. When you have a player that can see everything, everything's available to them, assuming they have the skill to like place the ball. Like, if you're Johannes or Moultrie or some of these other super skilled players, some of the Barcelona midfielders, take your pick.
Yeah.
If you can see it, and you could get the ball there, like literally the entire pitch is at your disposal. And there's so many players that don't have that, in their arsenal. But Moultrie, I think, is that kind of player. And both Baltimore, I think, is the same. Like, and it's not just I can pass the ball there, I can run there. Like, I can get past this player and inside that player, get there, and then that opens up something else somewhere else. Or I'll just fire a fucking laser and nobody's gonna stop that either. Like, I mean, Moultrie's weren't, totally tattooed tonight, but like, she got it done. She walks away with 2 goals and ends up being the difference in the match.
Yeah, the Baltimore comparison is really interesting. I like that. Let me throw one more at you, kind of based on stats, kind of just some general feel. I don't think Moultrie's not as good of a passer, but how about a little bit of Manuela Giuliano in her game? A little bit of like a little bit of a mean streak too. Like,
free kick. I love that.
Take the free kicks, can shoot from distance, will foul the shit out of you especially if she's frustrated in a spot. It's just like, I think Giuliano had like 12 goals last season or something like that, and Moultrie's sitting on 8. Obviously, she's not. I mean, unless she just really uncorks in this last match, she's not going to get to 12. But yeah, a lot of good players who kind of I'm trying to like think of. So that's probably fairly flattering to Moultrie. But some of those good players too, like I said, like, is she a better version than Jessie Fleming, which would be a pretty damn good player, and I think she is.
I mean, just talk about the players we're considering here. It's like, is she Jessie Fleming? Is she Dobritz? Is she Baltimore? Is she Giuliano? This is like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Moultrie, tremendous game. Again, I think, her ceiling, I really do think she has an MVP ceiling in the league. I think she could get there, and she's in the right kind of organization, to be able to do it. And I think she has that, could be the heartbeat of that team, just because she's just such a badass. But the fourth player that I put on my list of players that have to be there, and I've got a player comparison for this player as well. Give me Avery Patterson. I think was involved in everything, was all over the pitch. You talked about like the chippiness, mixing it up, making them feel us. Like, I think she kind of like was making some great triangles on the right-hand side, with Lily and Claire Hutton, and like just was like a good outlet for them to be able to just move the ball up the field together, and could just fly up or just kind of hang back a little bit, and was just involved in everything. She was just like mixing it up everywhere. It's like I love players like that, and is an absolute tank. Like
Yep.
I wrote down, I think Avery Patterson could be the US's version of like a Myra Ramirez. Like, okay, you can see where she's coming from, you can see where she's trying to go, but it doesn't mean anything. You can't stop her. She's too big. She's too strong. Like, it doesn't matter if you know, at least she can tell you where she's going. It doesn't matter. Like, and I think Avery Patterson has that kind of profile. She has the striking, you know, in her background, I think, you know, from her college career. And she just knows the game, and physically she's an absolute handful. So I love that player profile, you know, and I know the US kind of struggled with players on the outside, you know, opposite that Emily Fox spot. And Patterson can play on both sides. So I think she's a no-brainer for me too. I think would love that. I mean, I broke the Sharpie out my 4th spot. I gave it to Patterson.
I think if people vote on the 4, I think Patterson is what gets you the victory, my good man. And you know, I've purchased a lot of Patterson stock, especially over this NWSL season. And I don't know, you got me second guessing myself, because I think I overthought it. I didn't put her at number 4, but the players I was considering for 4 were Patterson, the player I have, obviously, and Ali Sentnor. But I ultimately went with, and she did not appear today, but I went with Michelle Cooper.
Oh, nice.
And that is because you talked about kind of how Triple Espresso is going to evolve. You know, obviously Sophie Wilson and Trinity Rodman are coming back. It's been a while since Mel Swanson has played competitive football, and we're still talking about 2 years from now. I think there are some questions to be answered. I think there will be time, you know, for her to get back. But I think, you know, Alyssa Thompson is going to be 100% in that mix. And I think on the other side, you just need somebody to reliably spell Trinity Rodman, and just, you know, talking about passing at speed, playing super physical, bringing kind of like that change up to Rodman's game a little bit. I think Cooper has all those abilities, and I just like her doggedness out there to also be a very willing defender. I just, you know, and we've even talked about it. Like, Cooper is a step down from Rodman, and who isn't a step down from Rodman, other than, like, as we've said, CGH, maybe a couple other players, wingers. But I think Cooper's got to be on the roster, because you need to have another super reliable striker, and I think Cooper is that.
Yeah, no doubt. Love Cooper's game. I think I kind of struggled too, because I was like, you know, I do think Rodman will be back, and probably is close to, you know, is not in the same, you know, maternal, you know, situations as the rest of the espresso. So I think we'll see Rodman back. So I think it kind of made Cooper a little bit less expendable for this exercise. I want to hit a couple players that we didn't get to mention yet. Actually, we've talked about all these players that made my longer list, except 2. One, Emily Fox. I think it's got to be there. You know, it's kind of like, it kind of felt like a cheat to put her in, because I just feel like she's already pre-Sharpied in before the stretch, and is in good health. PTJ, Fallon Joyce. It was at the top of my longer list, because I'm like, I think,
nice,
you know, seeing the performance and seeing what she's been doing for United in big matchups, I like her game, and I think she's kind of like grabbing that spot as like the number 1 option. I think the more windows that come and go, she just stretches that lead a little bit, you know, further each time out. And then the last one that didn't get a mention yet, Sam Coffey. I think tremendous player. It's going to make the midfield really interesting. Kind of made me think, you know, could we go to like a Portland style, you know, midfield diamond of our own, where they had Fleming, you know, they trade Sugita, but Fleming, Sugita, you know, Coffey and Moultrie were there for a minute there, or at least for a couple matches this season. But I think Coffey's got to be there. It's going to be really interesting to see how that, you know, like who ends up starting those matchups. I know it's 2 years from now, but I mean, I don't know who do you sit in that instance. At that point, you might just be looking at the chemistry. And to your point, maybe Lily and Claire have that chemistry kind of sewn up by then. But I mean, Coffee's not going to give up that spot. I mean, it's going to be an absolute dog fight for her to kind of like hand that spot over. So we'll be locked into that for sure.
And no matter how surprised she acts every time she scores a goal, Sam, you know you're good. We know you're good. I love the Selly. I think I've mentioned before, it's kind of got like those Bret Hart vibes when he just put his hands up like, who am I? What do you think? I mean, the touch that Coffee put on that corner kick, obviously right off the training ground, it's Sentnor that plays it in. And it's just like the Portuguese players are like, oh, Sam, like, yeah, we'll let Sam Coffee kind of make that run in at that area of the box. And she's just clever and talented enough to keep it low and put it in. I think the other players that we didn't mention, I mentioned Sentnor, obviously. Lily Real, you just drop her in. She can play, huh? Smart, calm, can pass, real clever, can play physical. You just drop her in the lineup, and I'm just like, okay, I guess she somehow fits perfectly with this group already.
I mean, she's a really good player. Like, so it's like, a player that it's weird when you watch her play in the NWSL, for Gotham. It's like some players just have a U.S. women's national team type game, like where they've got the versatility. They're active in different parts of the pitch. Like they're kind of patrol, like they have the discipline to kind of own a lane and an area, but it's always like at the right moments, they just make the right movements to kind of deviate from that. And Lily Rose, like that kind of player for sure. I love watching her play. I mean, I love watching the defenders, and she just has like she plays a great brand of defense that I think fits this club really, really well.
Yeah, no doubt. And then just two more honorable mentions real quick. I had to put Yasmin Ryan and Emma Sears on there because I had to at least think about it. I mean, Sears, I know we've talked about it before. Ali Sentnor plays bigger than she is, but there was a free kick late in the match and it was pretty far out for Portugal, but the 2-person wall was Sears and Sentnor. And I was just like, Sears has really good size. Like, I think Sentnor might be in like the 5'5" range. But I mean, with Sentnor's speed and skill, or pardon me, with Sears's speed and skill plus her size, I mean, she's a beast out there too. So I think they're all in consideration. I think this entire exercise shows that it's going to be incredibly tricky to pick 23.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal. I mean, there's going to be some good players that don't get through. All right, man. Well, I was pumped with the result. Anything else you want to hit before we got it? Any other players that deserve like a mention? Anybody that played well over these couple of matches before we hit the episode calendar?
I just want to say Portugal, I think they're good. Like, I know in their last 5, if you look at the group stage of the Euro, they are 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses. They lost to Spain. They obviously lost to USA Today. And then I think they lost to I think Belgium was in their group. And they have a win over USA, and they have a draw against Italy in that group stage of the Euros. And, Italy obviously went on to make the semifinal. And I know like they were getting cracked in the Nations League, like leading up to the Euros, but that team is good, man. Like, obviously Carol Costa is getting like toward the end of her career. What is she, 35 years old? But, they dropped Costa in that back line, and you have Fonseca, Costa, Gomez, Alves. That's a good back line. And like they, in the match before, instead of Costa, they had Correa.
Amato.
And they had Amato in the starting lineup before. So they had moved a couple players around. But yeah, as soon as Amato came back into this match, you saw how good she was once again for Portugal. She's 26. So I don't think this bigger result, obviously it's a win, it's a flipped result, but like 3-1 scoreline, Nothing really happened to that match to make me doubt my Portugal is still a good squad take. And I know like I said, they were getting cracked in the Nations League, didn't win a match, but they were in a group with Italy and Spain in the Euros. Tough draw. And then they come to the USA and play matches. Like, so you cannot accuse Portugal of you ain't played nobody. They've played plenty of good teams.
I mean, you just kind of wonder because obviously the US doesn't look markedly worse than they did the last time we saw them in major competition. Let's say the Olympics last year. Like they look about at the level, some stuff moving around, working some stuff out. But Portugal, they look way better than they did in 23, and they look better than they did in the Euros. And I think you were right to call it out when you said, okay, well, Kika's, not having Kika is going to like derail any team, but it's really going to derail this Portugal team. But Kika back in the mix, very much a hub of their offense. This team looks like, a team that has gone up maybe 2 levels, to be honest. I think and you just wonder, what is the Nations League doing to kind of iron sharpens iron kind of thing with those European teams, or the Euros where, that competition, the Euros group stage was an absolute bloodbath. Like there were great teams falling left and right that were just like, oh my God, this team's going to go. And then you see a team like Italy, really come into their own. And then Juventus carries that into the Champions League. And it's just it just feels different. And I think Portugal definitely falls into that category of teams that feel different. 2 years ago, this is just, it's tough to say this shouldn't be a team hanging with the US because they clearly are. They clearly are a team that is in, like they're just in the conversation like this. I don't know. Where would you put them? Are they like a top 12 team? I think they kept saying that this is a 23rd ranked team. This is not the 23rd best team in the world.
So they are ranked number 23. Ahead of them in the FIFA rankings as we sit here today, Finland is 22, Korea is 21, Belgium is 20, Austria 19, Colombia 18. Just to kind of give you an idea of the company they're keeping. Right behind them, another one that I think is real tricky, Switzerland is 24. I don't think Switzerland's the 24th best team. I think they're probably up there a little bit, but that might be some forward-looking stuff from me. I think when I was kind of looking at this, so like I mentioned, they had that draw versus Italy in the Euros. Italy is ranked 12th. Norway is 13th. Denmark is 14th. Australia is 15th. If you had 2 legs, Portugal versus any of those teams, Italy, Norway, Denmark, Australia, are you shocked? Which team of those would you be shocked if Portugal advanced?
I think the only one would be Italy because of the run that Italy has been on recently. Every other team, Norway, Denmark, all those other teams, totally gettable. Portugal just came to the US and beat them 2-1. And this is a team that is still on the ascent, still has a lot of young players. I think, you look at Italy, whether it's Girelli or Bonansea, there's a lot of, Linati, there's a lot of players that are like Giuliano, who we mentioned earlier at the top of the show. These are players that are, not probably post prime, if we want to be kind of gentle about it.
Sure.
So Portugal, definitely a team that, come 27, they're going to be an absolute problem.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think I would be pretty surprised if they got through 2 legs with Norway, just because I think there's a talent disparity on the attacking side there. But yeah, I'm largely with you there.
You would be shocked though, right?
I'm not shocked. I think
1-1 and 1-0. Then in the Stadio de Luge, it's there we go.
Yeah, and you can't be, look, shout out to all our pals in Norway. You can't be totally shocked if Norway gives one away either, right? And Portugal is the type of side they'd be like, oh, you're going to give that to us? Okay, we're snatching it. They're not the team that's, the worst teams to root for are the ones that when their opponent tries to give them the game and they're like, oh, no, thanks. Well, you take that one. Like it's just the worst. And I don't see Portugal as that kind of team right now. So yeah, and I think there's something to be said. Like, Canada is ranked 9th. I wouldn't be super shocked if Portugal could get past them over 2 legs. Like, I wouldn't be super shocked. I would be surprised. Maybe I'm doing degrees on this thing, but I look at Portugal. Look at Portugal's toughness. I don't know how much of that does Canada have right now.
Who knows? I don't know. We got almost 2 years to sort it out. Anywho, you won't have to wait 2 years for our next couple episodes. Next week, into the NWSL returns. We're going to talk some playoff matchups. We're going to have an end of season award show. We got more Champions League coverage coming your way as well. If you missed the Jordan Silkowitz finale, definitely go back and check that out. We did a great Champions League Match Day 2 recap. That's in the books. And then maybe in a day or so, we're going to have our Decision Day Machination show. We're gonna break down all the stakes associated with this weekend of football in the NWSL as the league prepares for the playoff stretch run. All right, man. I think we did it. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I'm going to continue to put the internal pressure on myself just to let everybody know I am efforting to get an absolutely legendary guest on this program. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to close. I'm going to close this interview. I'm going to make sure it gets scheduled. We'll get the legend on the podcast. I will not say it. I will not reveal who that is just yet, but I'm not underselling it. I'm trying to get a legend on this show with us. So I'm putting the pressure on myself.
Co-signing the legend, label. Absolutely. All right, man. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking in with us each and every single week. Like, subscribe, follow, leave us a review. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Want to support the show? Patreon.com/Into the Channel. Great way to do that. Into the Channel merch. Another great way to do that. Links to all the above and much, much more in the description of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Engle, for, what's more permanent than Sharpie? Maybe a tattoo of some sort. I don't know if I'm going to ready to go all the way there, but you already know what time it is. My guy is Sharpied in from here until the end. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. And on that merch, I just want to say, I'm wearing this very comfortable Into the Channel hooded sweatshirt right now. For anybody who's, traveled the world or maybe lives abroad, even lives in these United States, have you ever laid on fresh, soft grass in the hills of the Appalachia? Or have you ever swam in the beautiful blue coral of the Mediterranean Sea? That's what it feels like to be enveloped in this wonderful Into the Channel hoodie. So do yourself a favor, embrace the softness of it, embrace the comfortability, and thank you for rocking with us. We always appreciate that. Please let us know, who are you for? Who are you Sharpieing in to the U.S. Women's National Team for the 2027 World Cup? Let us know, drop the knowledge. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you all next time.